I'm calling to order this meeting of the April 24, 2018 Silver City Council. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. Agenda item number 2 is changes to the agenda. Do any of the councilors want to make changes to the agenda? Next item on the agenda is proclamations, and we have one. Whereas the town of Silver City is blessed by nonprofit organizations which provide invaluable service to our community, and whereas Give Grandly, Give Local Day being held on May 5, 2018 is the 5th community-wide giving event hosted by the Grant County Community Foundation, online at www.grantcountycommunityfoundation.org and www.givegrandly.org. And whereas Give Grandly will be celebrating its 5th year, and whereas the Give Grandly theme this year is 5 in 5 and hopes to raise $500,000 in 5 years. And whereas there are 57 registered participants, and whereas Give Grandly, Give Local Day shall grow the spirit of giving and raise as much money as possible for the nonprofits in the Grant County area. And whereas through the Grant County Community Foundation and its partner, the Southwest New Mexico Nonprofit Coalition, Give Grandly, Give Local Day shall inspire the public to support our nonprofit organizations on this one day, May 5, 2018. Now, therefore, I, Ken Ladner, Mayor of the town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim May 5, 2018 as the 5th ever Give Grandly, Give Local Day. And be it further proclaimed that for all citizens, it is the official day of providing financial support for all of the causes that continue to move our town forward. It's a pleasure to present you with this proclamation. If you will identify yourself and say a few words, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Betty Spence.
There you go.
My name is Betty Spence. I belong to one of the many nonprofits participating in this.
Could you turn around and speak into the...
Yes, sorry. And I'm very happy to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Grant County Community Foundation and the Southwest New Mexico Nonprofit Coalition of the 50 plus nonprofits participating. Thank you for supporting this for the 5th year in a row. Our area nonprofits provide much needed services that enhance our quality of life in Southwest New Mexico, and we especially want to thank the Silver City Board of Town Council for all the support that they give to nonprofits in this community. Since 2014, our communities have exceeded our greatest expectations. Donations have totaled more than $350,000 over the past 4 years, and our goal this year is to move that total up to $500,000 for the 5 years. Everyone can be a philanthropist, and we're asking the community to get behind Give Grandly. Large and small gifts combine for big impact. So if you can, please join us next to the Silver City Farmers Market on May 5th for food, music, information, and unlimited community spirit. Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do. Next item on the agenda is council comments. Councilor Kano.
Thank you, Mayor. I first want to start by reporting on the first district work day that we had on April 14th. There were about 40 people who participated in the District 4 work day, which was pretty good considering there were 5 or 6 really big events going on besides that. There was a group that helped at the Visitor Center, and they did some landscaping as well as going downtown and cleaning light posts and doing some other beautification work. And then there was a group of us that worked at Ibarra Park, also known as Chicano Park, in District 4. The main part of that work was to scrape all the paint off of the wall and to repaint it, and it's now a really nice purple color that has actually been drawing in kids. I've heard from several people that live in the neighborhood that they have seen an increase in children using the park, so that's really good. I just really want to thank Gary Staley and the youth that he works with. They are incredible. They worked so hard, and they were so patient with those of us that didn't really know what we were doing. So I really, really appreciate all the work they do every weekend for us. And also James Marshall, he and Gary are the ones that actually coordinated everything, and I actually just had to show up, which was really nice. So I appreciate that. The past couple of weeks have been a little bit difficult for District 4 just because we have so much of the construction going on. I have received more complaints in the last week or so than I have in the entire time I've been on the council. And a lot of them stem from a news article that was published on the 18th of April in the Daily Press. It was an article about the meeting that the DOT had, and the traffic control supervisor for the construction company was quoted as saying, after someone asked about patrols, potential police patrols, was quoted as saying, "We have talked to the police department, and they told us that they had better things to do than to patrol the area." Whether or not that was said is not my issue. My issue is the fact that that was published in the Daily Press. So because of that, people read the Daily Press, and not only were they upset because we don't have enough patrols in that area and people are speeding through and there's a lot of children, but now there's a concern that, okay, so what are the police doing if they're not going to be patrolling that area? And it's really hard to get the community to trust the police when things like that are put in the paper. And so I'm hoping that maybe Chief Reynolds can address that because, it's a concern. I've gotten a lot of complaints about it.
Mayor, City Council, yes. After it was pointed out to me, I had Captain Portillo call the supervisor, and the supervisor, he hawed about it, didn't know who he talked to. It was an officer, he wasn't sure. In the end, it seems like he just made that up. I want to assure the City Council and the community that we are enforcing in that area. We've done operations, especially at the Pine and Pinos Altos Street, because we had a few in the beginning appear that we were going to have issues with people stopping at that stop sign. So we have regular patrols through there. We conduct enforcement operations through there. I want to remind the public that if you get cited in a construction zone and it's on your citation, you will be paying a heavier fine. So we need to slow down, pay attention to the signage, and I appreciate you bringing that up because that was one that irritated me pretty good when I saw it.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Along with that, I know that everyone's in a hurry, but if you could just leave 5 minutes earlier instead of rushing through, especially on Pine Street. Pine Street is dangerous anyway, and now it's even worse because there's people who don't normally drive it that are now driving it. So if you live in that area, please be aware. I know that some other councilors are going to mention the fact that the traffic from our area is now moving to another area, and that's making it worse in more than one place. So just be patient. It's going to look really nice when it's done, but it'd be nice if there were no accidents in the meantime.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. We also picked up additional patrols on Kimberly and Pine as well, simply because of the detours through that area. And we'll continue doing that through the life of the construction.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to clarify something that on the last town council meeting, why I pulled it out. I had made up my mind from the very beginning that I was going to pull it out, and I did tell the Daily Press that I had no comment. And now the comment that was, the article that Mr. Fisher wrote, I didn't appreciate it, and it made it sound like that lady was all that stopped my NOI. That's not true. And again, Mr. Fisher, I have told you before that don't put words in people's mouths and don't put thoughts in people's minds. And you guys have made a lot of mistakes. And also, when you say it's a regretty that we made a mistake, well, you guys are always doing that. The damage has already been done. And I personally, I don't appreciate it. And I pulled it out because it wasn't a good thing to do. And it's like I told, after the meeting, I told some people here, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Thank you.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start off by saying what a great weekend it was with all of the events that were going on, Earth Day and the tour and various things that were going on. The second and small thing I have to say is that I'm on a personal mission to visit every park in Silver City. So those of you who are interested in our public recreation capabilities, go to the town website, go to the town departments, pull it down and select Parks and More, and you'll be able to see where all of the parks are in Silver City. And so this last week, Ryan's and friends visited Hidden Park, which is really hidden. And we visited 32nd Street Park, the tennis courts, and Fox Field, and made use of those facilities. And I just want to say how grateful I am for the people. We have a very small staff who attend these fairly widely separated parks. And I'm just really grateful for the opportunity for recreation and green space, active recreation, passive recreation, walking, playing games here in Silver City. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Councilor Bedison?
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to echo the Councilor Amy Smith just said about all the wonderful things this weekend and mention that at Earth Day, I had a number of people come up and thank us for getting the fence repaired and everything on the trail. So they're very appreciative of it, and they're glad that we're focusing on making sure that we try to keep where we can when it's town property or when it's a stream bed, trying to make sure that we keep ATVs out. Because they do need to understand that some of those areas is wide open spaces because it's private property and we can't really do anything but do it on our end and hope that fences don't get taken down, but we all know that happens for a variety of different reasons, so usually to get access to make things easier. I also wanted to mention that, thank you, Councilor O'Connell, for talking about the traffic. I too have an issue because they have moved over to Cactus Street to bypass all the traffic that's now going down Swan. And I just want to say what I've said in the past. A stop sign is not a recommendation. It is, you're supposed to stop. And you should not be going 50 miles an hour down a residential area. I know that I think, Chief, that you had added that to your patrol as well, because I personally have been hit almost twice on the same day at 2 different times on Cactus. So I know, as Councilor Connell said, leave a little bit early. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, I know there's a whole lot of traffic on Swan. It would be really nice that during these construction periods that maybe they might think about putting an actual left-hand turn signal for both of the northbound and the southbound Swan to Highway 180 or Silver Heights Boulevard, or at least just put it permanently, because people are too confused right there. And I've seen people that are turning left, they're coming from, southbound Swan to go north, but they're turning left onto West 180, and they don't realize that left-hand turn lane that people are sitting in actually goes straight, so people are having to stop in the middle of the road so they don't hit somebody, and the left-hand turn people just keep going. So I just think that there's something, if we can get them to extend the length of it, the signal, to do something. Right now, it is packed, and I've been using that a lot. It's the only way I can turn left out of my area. That part of District 1, you can't turn left. You just can't do it from Cactus or...
You can't do it from anywhere but Juniper.
Juniper, you can't turn left.
Not even that street. You can't turn left from any street
But Swan. Juniper, you
but
can't
Swan,
turn
yeah.
left.
And that's partly because of the Silver Street construction. And again, I stated this at the last council meeting. The state didn't try to or work with us to, and even though we ended up awarding the bid for Silver Street, knowing that we were going to end up in conflict, we asked them to help us work something out, and they just told us that's the way it's going to be. And so, we can ask about the light there, see if we can get the turn, because that's the only thing I can think of that will help. Because, even when there was no construction, because I live up in that area, and coming down PA and Swan, at those two intersections, there's that left-hand turn and go straight, and most people don't pay attention to them. Though I know them, and I'm one of those people that was going straight in that lane, and somebody else from the next lane was waiting to turn. And it's happened multiple times in the last week or so, and it's just be careful right now.
They did take that sign down, that had it just as a single left-hand turn lane when you're coming, you were going southbound, you wanted to turn, on east on Silver Heights. But if they do put the turn signal in, then that lane has to be only left. There has to be something consistent so that there's something going on right there where people are confused, and then on top of it, all this extra traffic that's coming from both, from people coming from PA and also people in District 4 and District 1 and District 2. They're just coming from everywhere, and they're all converging on a couple streets.
Well, on top of that, you also have people coming from the other side of town, who are taking their kids to school back and forth, and who are, the only time they go in those neighborhoods, in that area, is to take their kids to school. I drop off my grandson at Stout every morning, and I leave early because I know I go slow, and I still have the same problems. And I go down those streets for the last 20 years, and still, so I can understand why people that are first-time users of the street, or infrequent users of the street, are having problems with it. So, it's all about being patient, going slow, be careful, and, we can try with the signage and stuff, but nobody's reading the signs anymore.
No, I agree.
Because especially, you've got the detour that comes from 32nd Street that directs people down Silver, and they go down Silver, and then they get blocked, and then they get frustrated, and then they're turning and trying to find their way out to 180. That's very frustrating. I pass by that sign every day, and I think I should go tear that that sign down, because
Okay, well,
I see what's happening.
we'll know what happens to it if it disappears. But I would agree with you, because one of the things I've seen is on the feeder streets, because 19th comes from Councilor Canos, and it comes from District 1. And the problem is because Swan is so backed up that nobody can turn right or left from 19th on to Swan. So they get very frustrated, and they start edging out, and then it creates havoc.
Okay. And then Kimberly is a detour off of PA, and they closed it today.
What?
They closed it today because yesterday, because they started working on it. Because part of the drainage goes down, the drainage pipes come off of PA onto Kimberly and go into the ditch. So they decided to close Kimberly too. So,
Great. Oh my God, that's even
so
more problems for
yeah, so
Councilor Thomas.
today I saw somebody from out of town driving up PA, because it's a one-way north, and they got lost in the barrels, and they got stuck, and they had the guy behind them honking and honking and honking, and you know, I thought I was gonna have to call the police because of road rage, and so it's dangerous.
Well, I want to echo what Councilor Thomas said. Patience is going to be important right now, and leaving a little bit early, like you said. I do want to thank dispatch. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. It was last week. We had those really high winds, and one of the signs on Silver Heights Boulevard, I was going to pick up my dog at the vet, and it smashed and all over the ground, and just little tiny shards, and people were going really, really slow. But by the time I could call, because I was in my vehicle, they had already had officers there, and they were cleaning it up, and they had just kind of roped off everything, and they had people going around it because they were afraid that it would get stuck in folks' tires and stuff. So I want to thank for the prompt response, but that's also something that, you know, we would like the construction company, that we have a lot of high winds right now, so, you know, batten down the hatches on those signs so they don't smash and do that kind of damage.
Well, we've got Southwest working on College and Silver Street, so they're a local company.
Yes.
So they understand what's happening, so the mayor brought something up to me that I need to talk to them about, but they understand what the area. Unlike Highway 15, that's a new company that
Is not from here?
is not from here, as well as the company that's working on the old hospital property.
Okay.
Those semis too. They're from out of town, so there is a lot going on, a lot of people that don't understand. You have construction people that are from out of town that don't understand the community. You have people that have to go into different neighborhoods that don't understand those neighborhoods. So there is a lot of confusion going on. And be patient, be slow, be careful.
And I think if I could just ask for the papers, you know, both you guys, to state that, yes, we know that there's diesel trucks going up Juniper, but they can't turn left onto Silver Heights Boulevard from Juniper. And I think Councilor Conlon mentioned something about they come all the way across and then they do the wide turn and take up everything on Swan. So they're trying to do the best they can as well. It's just the way our streets are and the impossible situation of not being able to turn left from anything in certain areas except for Swan is what's coming down to. So patience all the way around, and it's just, you know, certainly give us a call or, you know, do the report a pothole or do something, like if you see anything, make sure you let Central Dispatch know, and they'll hopefully send somebody out right away, especially if we get someone who's stuck in the barrels. I mean, it kind of reminds me of California, because it's Barrel City everywhere, and it's like, I don't even recognize Silver City right now with all the orange barrels. And the last thing I wanted to say is, unfortunately, I will be unable to attend tomorrow's ceremony for the new charging station. I will be unfortunately out of town, and I also there's another thing that I had the kiosk.
That's the following.
Right, but I can't go, I just want to publicly state I can't do that because that's when we have folks, because of work at the University Museum. So I will be unable to attend that, and I just wanted to make sure people knew that I would be there, but it is a scheduled event at the museum to try to get it done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Well, I had a few comments. It's been pointed out, last weekend was pretty busy. Started out with the Senior Olympics, and then went to Earth Day, and then several days of the Tour of the Gila, and then there was Diane Engel and her art group that was doing tile work over at the library. The point I want to make is that it's amazing all the things that are taking place in Silver City, but what is more amazing is the number of volunteers that we have that make these kinds of things possible. And so once again, I want to thank all of the volunteers in our community for helping to make Silver City even better. And then there was Councilor Cano's project, as she pointed out. The other amazing thing is that the councilors and the administration don't just come up with work projects for people, they actually participate. I watch Councilor Cano spray paint and paint all day practically. And James Marshall wields a really mean paintbrush. And then Gary and his community youth building group, and the same thing was true with Earth Day. He had a whole group over there working, and Councilor Amon Smith was over there working, and Councilor Bettison was there. So there's not only these volunteers, but participation by our elected officials that is really great. We still have 3 more community projects based upon our territorial charter workday, Councilor Amon Smith and Councilor Bettison and Councilor Cano, and so I'm sure we'll be announcing those at some point when they begin to get close. I didn't pick a project because I intended to work as much as I could with the other projects. But the other thing that I've been doing, and you should know, is I've been working with Mr. Marshall and lots of other community members. Is we're trying to put together a program to try and do something with the litter that we have in our area. And I'll keep the council updated on that as we go along, and also be soliciting your input as well. I also want to thank Chief Lambert for his quick response to declare the state of fire danger and to post these all over town. And Chief, are we also doing this with PSAs on the radio stations and so on?
Mayor, Council, yes, it's been on the radio. The Silver City Fire Department has a public information line that you can call into. It's posted on that. It's been sent to the newspapers. It's posted, I believe, in 14 places, prominent places in town: Walmart, Albertsons, Food Basket, City Hall, the Annex Building, and we've been distributing paper copies as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Lambert? Okay, then the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the April 10, 2018 regular meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Amon Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of Silver City of April 10th, 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bettison?
Thank you, Mayor. I second the motion as stated.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is public input, and it looks like no one's signed up, so we'll move right along to reports. And the first item is 8A, the quarterly report on the Silver City Arts and Culture District and Visitor Center operations, which will be given by Colleen Martin, Executive Director.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councilors, for having me here again. It's always a pleasure to come and talk a little bit about what we've been trying to accomplish over the last quarter. I did want to apologize for a couple of errors that we made in this new format on the front of the report. So just quickly, sorry, if you have the report in front of you, the social media and web content management line item was only including 1 month, and so for the quarter, it's $5,025. And the other correction is that the...
Sorry, what page was that?
It's on the front page of the report that's in the memo formats in a table. Sorry. And the other correction is that the Zia Publishing ad is not being charged to lodger's tax. That was being charged to general tourism, marketing, and advertising. So that just got moved over to the third column. So in conjunction with this new format, I just wanted to let everyone know that we are on budget for the lodger's tax grant that we got for fiscal year 2018, and I'll be giving a more thorough report on that at the end of the fiscal year. So I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on the May 1st trail kiosk ribbon cutting. The mayor has kindly agreed to be the master of ceremonies. It's at 11:30 in the visitor center parking lot where the kiosk is located, and everyone is invited. We've issued press releases, and we've started to circulate flyers and other invitations. So we hope that everybody can come. That was a very interesting project to be involved with, and it's still ongoing. So that's something that I can elaborate on more if you're interested in. The other thing I wanted to draw your attention to, just in terms of highlights from the report, is that we've seen a 6% increase in overall traffic to the visitor center vis-a-vis third quarter of 2017. So that's a positive figure, because it looked in the second quarter as if visitors were down, but apparently this is sort of the season when the visitation really starts picking up again, and so as a newcomer, I wasn't aware of that, so it's always a pleasure to be able to report that we are getting more visitors year on year. The other thing I wanted to just bring to your attention is that we've added the new section of how they heard about Silver City to the visitor center statistics. And the interesting thing is that as opposed to previous quarters, the internet has really become the primary source of information. So 17.8% of the people who visited the visitor center said that they used internet research. The second was they saw it on the map, and the third was from a travel website. So this is in keeping with the overall industry trends, and we are responding to that by putting a lot more emphasis on the online marketing of the town. Does anyone have any questions on the general report? I wanted to stop here before I report on the non-lodgers tax initiatives, if there is any comment or question.
Any questions from the council?
So just to finish up, I wanted to just draw your attention to some of the things that we've been doing outside of the framework of the lodgers tax. We organized a panel at the Denver Southwest Summit on Creative Placemaking Leadership, which was in the end attended by Alicia Edwards from the county and Martha Egnell from the Montessori School. Lee Gruber and I were supposed to participate as well, but we ended up having a snafu with Boutique Airlines, so we weren't able to get there. But it was, from all accounts, a very successful meeting, and Alicia has a lot of detail on that, if anyone is interested. We also carried out a tourism town hall earlier this month, and most of the feedback, well, all of the feedback I have received so far has been positive. And I think that we benefited not only from having them at the town hall, but also from the tour that we took them on the day before, where they were familiarized with the catwalk and the Mimbres Valley, the Mimbres Culture Heritage Site and the La Esperanza Winery, as well as several local restaurants. So they were very impressed, and hopefully that will work in our favor in the future. Another thing that we had spent quite a bit of time on in a collaborative fashion with a lot of the agencies and organizations around town was a grant proposal to the U.S. Department of Agriculture for a feasibility study for a joint or combined incubator makerspace. And I'm pretty optimistic about our chances for getting that grant, because the USDA is very interested, I think, in providing funding for this sort of thing, and also for funding projects in Silver City. We also have been busy with working on the proposal for the cooperative agreement that we have every year with the New Mexico Department of Tourism in terms of the overall advertising budget, and we hope to hear something about that in May, late May or early June, and then that will help us develop the overall marketing budget for fiscal year 2019. So that's my report, and I'd be happy to answer questions or elaborate on anything that I've mentioned so far.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
I was noticing in this place where tourists visitors make comments, and I know I think all of us do. We walk around downtown, we talk to visitors and people that are here, and ask them questions like where they're from and what they're doing here and what they liked about Silver City and what they think needs to be improved. But just looking at some of these comments, it really mirrors things that I hear, like, it was cool, man, the city is cool. Loved the friendly folks here. Loved your quaint town. We'll definitely be back. Nice place. We will be back. I love this place. Love the city. Nice place. We will come back. Wish we had more time on this visit. So I think people are, when they come in, they're beginning to find things that not only can they do, but they're beginning to see the beauty like we do and the friendly people in the community like we know there are. So thank you.
They're having overall very good experiences, which is what we need to be able to pull those people back again. So thank you.
Mr. Brown, do you have reports?
Yes, sir. I wanted to talk about two things. Recycling. I sent you guys out an email last week. There's some issues with recycling in the sense that all the items that are being collected on curbside collection, we're having issues with the companies that we've been selling the single stream. Single stream is everything that you see on your cart on the top, all but cardboard. All of that is considered single stream because it is all taken, baled, and then sent to a company, and it's a recycling company. They sort it. They have markets for the different types of material. There's no market for almost anything anymore except cardboard and metal. So the Solid Waste Authority has been sending single stream to Tucson, and they were paying us just enough to cover the cost of transporting the material and everything and coming back. But last month, we don't always know the rate that we're going to get because that depends on the market. Last month, we actually got a bill for taking it because there's no market for most materials. China, which has been the largest purchaser of the recycling materials, is no longer purchasing the material, and so there are no markets for it except for cardboard and the steel, like I said. So I've been working with the authority, and they're working with another company out of El Paso that they met today, see if we can fix things up there. But if not, the council is going to have to make a decision. Well, the council and the Solid Waste Authority Board now that we're having to pay to take the material, we no longer are covering our cost to transport it. So now we've got the cost of them accepting the material and then transportation and everything, that additional cost. So we've got three options. One is do nothing and just eat it and see if we can survive the cycle that we're in right now until they start paying us for the recycling, which I have no idea how long that's gonna last. Number two is Las Cruces, which is a big landfill. They've actually been looking. They started seeing this earlier because they're a bigger landfill, and they've actually found a certain individual types of the plastic, individual types of paper, individual aluminum, those things. And so they're thinking about taking fewer types of items so that they can sell the items that they collect. Third would be to raise the rates for collection and continue to accept what we're accepting, even though we're not able to sell it and get rid of it. Most likely, most of the material, well, we could take it still to if we're going to raise the rate, we should still take it to the retailer so we can save on airspace at the landfill, which is one of the added benefits. So there's going to be some decisions that are going to have to be made. I hope to have enough information by the second council meeting in May when we have to adopt our preliminary budget, and so that I can make a recommendation to you at that point. Right now, I don't have enough information to make a recommendation. Also, I want to see what the Solid Waste Authority Board is saying as well, because they are the ones that are going to have to, they also are our partner that have to pay the bill. And so if they're not going to get reimbursed by us, then they may say, no, we're not going to do it anymore. So there's a lot of change that may come, may not, but I wanted to give you the heads up, and I found out just a few days before I sent you the email about it. Any questions?
Councilor Hudson?
So this has been, Santa Fe went out about a month ago and they put it in the paper up in Santa Fe, and then it's been on the nightly news with Lester Holt. He mentioned this as well, that it's happening across the United States, and it's because China is no longer accepting many of the plastics simply because we're not cleaning them, and so they're contaminating each other. So, I guess the question that because I think that Santa Fe, you do have to pay for recycling, but I think that they're restricting what they're taking. And I guess one of the questions that I would ask you to look at is there a venue if we do an education, where we educate everybody that you've got to clean the stuff before you put it in there. Everything from the tin cans to, any of the plastics that they might accept. But I know that is what they do in some other states, and they've been doing it for years, but I just don't know, so I have a tendency to wash everything. I just don't know if that's going to be viable if the Chinese are going to actually start purchasing again, even if it was clean. It's something about the fact that they're upset about the contamination of foods and things that are left in the plastic.
Yes, that's an issue, but I think even with education, the community has started to want the additional container, learning, because the benefit of the pay-as-you-throw program is the more you throw, the more you pay. And so recycling was just an added way of saving money. And it wasn't, I can say pretty safely that not 2/3 of our customers that we collect are all about recycling. It's more about saving money. Mm-hmm. And so, we could do the education. I don't know
if that would
it's going to work.
Yeah.
If we go to a point where we charge for recycling, those people, if they're going to pay for recycling, they're going to clean it. So, then we're going to get down to a couple hundred customers so it's going to be up to you, a lot of thinking. I'm going to be working with the Solid Waste Authority Board and see what they're willing to do and come up with. And so, but I wanted to give you the heads up on everything. Okay?
Any other questions? Councilor Khan?
Actually, now that we're talking about recycling, it reminded me of something else I wanted to ask about. I know a few months ago, we had a situation where there was a truck that was broken, so the recycling was being picked up by the same truck that picked up sanitation. Well, recently, I've been receiving calls because people are seeing the same thing happening where someone's picking up recycling, but they're also picking up trash at the same time.
That happened this week.
Yeah, so...
And it was the same issue.
Okay.
I actually saw it myself, and I called in to find out what had happened. But yes, that's what happened. And any more questions on recycling? Okay. Next is the budget. We're putting along, getting everything put together. As you know, hold harmless is continuing to be phased out. So next year, we're going to be seeing a approximately $440,000 decrease in hold harmless payments. And so it's made it challenging to being able to get the budget in order. But I think we'll be okay. The only thing is that we are going to have to increase revenue in some way, and so I am going to recommend that we pass one of the hold harmless increments. I don't want all of them because that would create extra revenue that you want to spend. But, so I just rather impose the 1/8, do it in January, and so we'll get about 4 months worth of revenue off of that, so it's approximately $98,000. It's not a whole lot, but it's enough to make things work this year, and then we'll have it all of next year. So I'm looking, we won't have to pass another one next year, but the following year maybe. As far as lodger's tax is up about 17%. Gross receipts tax, actually, based on projections, after the check, what we received this week, we're only about 0.29% off of what I projected, so we're really close. And I thought we'd be a little bit farther ahead this year because I try to be conservative on my projections, but the projects didn't start as soon as I thought they were going to. We'll start building up, but I'm trying to not make my projections depending on the construction projects. I want that to be surplus money that we can use it for one-time expenditures. And so, but water source, I'm not looking at any increases, keeping things the same as they are. Sanitation, we just talked about it. It's going to depend on recycling mainly. As far as everything else, I think we're in very good shape. And but at the next council meeting, I'm actually going to have numbers for you to look at. Okay.
Any questions? Another report, Mr. Brown?
No, I'm done.
Is Mr. Mojo?
He's here for the JPA, the agenda item. The agenda item B, 11B, he's here for that.
Okay, so moving right along then. New business. Next is agenda item 11. The first item is 11A, the approval/disapproval of resolution number 2018-13, a resolution amending the approved and adopted budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018, and for municipal purchase in the town of Silver City, New Mexico, transferring and appropriating funds thereof. Mr. Brown?
Mayor and Council, we've talked about this before. We've got some funds that are in the negative, but it's because of waiting for reimbursements. So we had to transfer money from other funds into those funds, and then basically straight back once we send in the quarterly report. So everything you have in front of you is that they're all transfers, everything that we're doing. There's no increases or decreases in anything. It's just transferring between funds to offset those negative balances. And so with that, do you have any questions on any of them?
No questions? Okay, do I hear a motion? Councilor Connell?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve a resolution number 2018-13, a resolution amending the approved and adopted budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, and for municipal purpose in the town of Silver City, transferring and appropriating funds thereof.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Ray?
Thank you, Mayor. I second that.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Hahn? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Amon Smith? Aye. Councilor Medicine? Aye.
Motion carries. The last item is 11B, the approval/disapproval of Grant County Regional Dispatch Authority Joint Powers Agreement, and this will be Mr. Marshall.
Mayor and Council, the Grant County Regional Dispatch Association originated in 1999, and we're currently operating off of the original Joint Powers Agreement. We have had a few developments over the last almost 20 years that we thought we better take another look at the Joint Powers Agreement. The first issue was that the town of Silver City and the county of Grant are the only contributors outside of the gross receipts tax. The board is so large that it's often hard to get a quorum. Not all of the significant partners were included 19 years ago, and the general Joint Powers Agreement template that the state issues has had significant changes. So the new JPA that was negotiated with all the parties until no objections were heard from the negotiating staff. So we invited all of the agencies that are involved to sit at the table, and we negotiated until there was no objections that anybody could justify. And here we are. The board is going to go from 12 members to 7. While Silver City and Grant County attendance will only count as 1 for the purpose of forming a quorum, votes on action items will be counted as 2, and I'll explain that in a minute. Each entity will appoint a member of choice. If the appointee misses 3 consecutive meetings, the appointee shall be replaced by the member organization. Powers of the board do not significantly change. They're to run the dispatch center. So they have overall policy and fiscal responsibility for the board and all the responsibility and duties thereof. Fiscal liability of members is calculated by the approved expenses of the agency that exceed the county emergency communications and emergency medical services gross receipts tax. The tax is currently 1/8 of 1% of county receipts. The balance shall be covered by the Joint Powers Agreement partners. The new formula is in the agreement. Grant County and Silver City is 35%. And just to give you a little example, we came up with a formula based on call volume. And Silver City Police Department does about 26,000 a year, where Bayard does about 5 to 6. So there's a significant difference there, and that's how we developed the formula. The City of Bayard is 5%, Village of Santa Clara 5%, Town of Hurley 5%. Gila Regional Medical Center is at 10%. They do about 4,000 calls a year, and the major difference with them is we provide emergency medical dispatch, which is horrendously time-consuming on the agency to stay on the phone, committed to one caller, and provide pre-arrival instructions. So they were at 10%. Western New Mexico University is the additional partner, and they are at 5%. So any capital requirement expenses will be divided with the same formula. So right now, we're looking at, the CAD system is still a green screen. It's still it's 20 years old. We're considering a new computer-aided dispatch software, and any of those costs would be voted on by the board, allocated by each entity, the funds for it, and then spread across that same formula. Excuse me, non-member users may be billed a cost per call, and that amount would be calculated annually based on the actual cost per call. The agreement will take effect when executed by all the parties and approved by the Department of Finance Administration in the state of New Mexico, and the agreement may be terminated with 180 days notice. Term of the agreement is until amended, replaced, or a majority of the members exit. Our attorney has reviewed and signed off. Santa Clara and Bayard have approved the agreement, and since we sent it to you, there was a couple of clerical corrections that were made. If you notice, there was section 9.2 was referenced in a couple of places, and it actually should have been 10.2. So that's been corrected, and there was a place where the agreement was called an amendment and rather than an agreement, so that's been corrected. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Councilor Madison?
Thank you, Mayor. So, can you just clarify this non-member usage, that it would be cost per call? I don't want, like, a citizen of any of these communities to think that they would be charged for calling central dispatch. Am I correct in assuming that?
You are absolutely correct.
Okay.
That is by agency.
That's what I thought. But
So, had Western chose not to join the agreement, they would be subject to an annually calculated cost per call.
So does that pertain then to, like, the school districts, or are they included?
It pertains to actual users, law enforcement, mostly your public safety, police,
Okay.
fire, and EMS.
Okay, so I was just trying to clarify what that meant, so I wanted to make sure the public didn't think that they would be charged if they called, dispatch.
No, they will not be charged
Okay.
individually.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion? Councilor Amon Smith?
I move to approve the Grant County, New Mexico Joint Powers Agreement for Consolidated Public Safety and to enhance PSAP.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Madison?
I'll second the motion as stated.
Have a motion and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Ann.
Councilor Benson?
Aye.
Councilor Amon Smith? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Kano? Aye.
Motion carries. This concludes the business of the town of Silver City. Do I hear a motion? Councilor Amon Smith?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated.
Motion second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are hereby adjourned.